In today's Blender tutorial, I will show you how to make a quick and easy animation of an emoji that's breathing and winking. And after this tutorial, you should be able to create different types of small animations using the same techniques we use in this tutorial. For today's tutorial, we will create a simple emoji. But if you want to learn how to make the Twitch icon from the intro, make sure to subscribe as I will post a tutorial about that soon. Once the Twitch icon tutorial is ready, I will put a link on screen in this video and in the description below. Let's get started by making this simple emoji. Open up a new blend file, press Shift and A, mesh and add a circle. This menu down here will appear, and make sure you don't click on anything else as the menu will disappear. And once it's disappeared, you will need to delete the object and create a new one to get it back. In this menu, change the number of vertices to 16. Then press R and X and type 90 to rotate the circle on the X-axis. Press G and Z and 1 to move the circle up 1 meter on the Z-axis. With the circle selected, press Tab to go into edit mode. Or you can go into edit mode from the menu up here. Make sure the select mode up here is set to edge or vertex. And press A to select the whole circle, press E to extrude, and right-click to release in place. Then press S to scale and scale it down until you have a circle that looks something like this. We will extrude the face along the Y-axis to give it some depth. So rotate your screen to get a side view of the circle. Press A to select all, and then press E and Y and extrude the circle to something like this. Tab back into object mode, right-click on the circle and shade smooth. Then go to the modifier properties, add modifiers, go to Generate, and add a subdivision surface modifier. Increase the viewport levels to 2. A quicker way to add a subdivision surface modifier is to select your object in object mode and press Ctrl and 2 on your keyboard. This shortcut automatically adds a subsurface with 2 levels. The subsurface modifier made the edges very smooth, and I want them to be a bit sharper. To do that, we will need to bevel the edges. We could do this using a bevel modifier, but I will bevel the edges in the edit mode instead. So select your circle and tab into edit mode. Hold down Alt and click on this edge to select the whole loop. We will also select this loop to bevel it at the same time. To do that, hold down Shift and Alt and click on it. And both edges should now be yellow. Then press Ctrl and B to bevel. Move your mouse to increase or decrease the size of the bevel. Then scroll your mouse wheel up or down to add 2 segments. You can also change the settings in the menu down here, but just like with the circle, this menu will disappear if we click on anything else. We will also bevel these edges, so Alt and click on one edge, then Shift and Alt and click on the other edge. Ctrl and B to bevel and make sure it has 2 segments. Tab back into object mode and let's add some eyes for this little guy. We will use a plane to create the eyes, so press Shift and A, mesh and select plane. Then press R, X and 90 to rotate the plane 90 degrees on the X-axis. Go to side view and move the plane back just a little bit by pressing G and Y. Now tab into edit mode with the plane selected. And in edit mode, scale the plane down by pressing S and move your mouse. We want the eye to be more narrow, so press S and X and scale down along the X-axis. Once you like the size of the eye, tab back into object mode and select the plane and press G and Z and 1.2 to move the plane up. And to give our little guy 2 eyes, we will use a mirror modifier. With the plane selected, go to Modifier Properties, Add Modifier, Generate, and Mirror. It doesn't look like anything's changed, but that's because both planes are in the same spot. So select the eyedropper and click on the circle to mirror the eyes based on the circle. Then select your plane, press G and X and move it until you have two eyes placed where you want them to be. With the eyes selected, tab back into edit mode and let's extrude the eyes to give them some depth. I don't want them to be as deep as the circle, so I'll go with something like this. And while you're in edit mode, you can also change the size of the eyes if you want by pressing A to select all and S and X or S and Z to scale along the X or Z axis. We will also add one loop cut to give the eyes some more geometry. So select your eye, press Ctrl and R and add a loop cut around the eye and right click to release in the middle. Tab back into object mode and give the eyes a subdivision surface modifier by pressing Ctrl and 2. Then right click on the left eye and shade smooth. If you want the eyes to have sharper edges, you can bevel the edges just like we did with the circle. But I quite like the rounded look of the eyes, so I will keep them like this. Since we want to animate one eye winking, we need to apply the mirror modifier so that the two eyes become individual meshes. So click on the drop-down menu by the mirror modifier and apply. Then with the eyes selected, tab into edit mode and click on the right eye. Then press L to select everything that's linked to the right eye. Press P and separate by selection. And you will now see that the right eye is its own separate object in the scene collection. We can rename the eyes to left and right eye. I will quickly add a metal material to the circle and the eyes. And I'll add an HDRI as world lighting. You can download free HDRIs from Polyhaven. There's a link in the description below. And if you want to give your emoji a mouth, you can do this by, for example, adding a circle and either keeping the whole circle or delete half of it. Then scale, extrude, and move it into place like we did with the eyes. Now that the emoji has materials and the lighting is set up, let's get started on the animation. We will use lattices to deform the meshes. The animation only needs to be 48 frames long, so type in 48 here. First, we will animate the left eye winking. Select the left eye, then press Shift and A, Lattice, and add a Lattice Deform selected. This is a new feature in Blender 5. It automatically adds a perfectly sized lattice to your object, and it also adds the lattice modifier to the object. If you're using an older version of Blender, you will need to resize the lattice to fit the eye, and then add a modifier. So go to Add Modifiers, Deform, and Add Lattice. And then use the eyedrop tool to select your lattice. The lattice for the eye doesn't need a high resolution, but in Object Data Properties, let's increase the V resolution to 4. If we tab into Edit mode with the lattice selected, we can move the vertices around to deform the eye. If you press O or click on the button up here, you turn on proportional editing. This creates a circle of influence which can be increased or decreased by rolling your mouse wheel. To animate the lattice, we will use shape keys. In object mode and with the lattice selected, you can add shape keys by clicking on the plus sign under shape keys here. This adds a basis shape key for the eye when it's open. Let's create another shape key for the closed eye. So press the plus here and you will see that it adds key 1. Make sure that key 1 is selected and tab into edit mode and move the lattice around. Remember to have proportional editing turned off. If it's on, press O. We will now move the vertices of the lattice down to close the eye. Box select the vertices starting with these lower ones, press G and Z to move along the Z axis. Then repeat with the other vertices like this. Make sure you don't pull the vertices too far down as this will mess up the mesh. Once the eye is closed, tab out of edit mode and you can now decrease or increase the value of key 1 to make the emoji wink. To animate this, we need to set keyframes for the open and closed positions. So make sure the playhead on the timeline is set to 1. and then decrease the value of key 1 to 0. And now the eye is open. Then click on this little dot behind the value to set a keyframe for the open eye. The value turned yellow, and yellow means that we've set a keyframe and that the value matches the set keyframe. We have now told Blender that this eye is open on frame 1. I want the wink to be quite fast, so the animation will take place over only 7 frames. Move the playhead 3 frames forward to frame 4. Notice how the value turned green? This means that there are no keyframes set for the value at frame 4. But it also means that there hasn't been a change to the value since our previous keyframe. If we increase the value to 1, the value will turn orange. And orange means that we've changed the value, but that we haven't set a keyframe for it yet. So click on the diamond to set a keyframe at frame 4. And now the value is yellow, so all is good. Then move the playhead forward 3 frames to frame 7, and let's open the eye again. So reduce the value of key 1 to 0, and this has turned orange. So we need to set a keyframe and click on the diamond to do that. And it's turned yellow and everything's okay again. You can now press the play button or the spacebar to watch our little animation. Here's a little challenge for you. Try and add a lattice and a wink animation to the other eye as well. Let me know in the comments below how you're getting on with that. Does it seem like your animation is slowing down and increasing in speed? If so, that means you have to change the interpolation mode on your keyframes. Box select your keyframes and right-click. Go to interpolation mode and choose linear. And now you should have a smooth animation. Since we're done animating the eye, you can hide the lattice from view if you want. Just select it and press H to hide. We will now move on to the breathing animation. It's a tiny bit more advanced as it involves using 2 shape keys at the same time and also linking multiple objects to the same lattice. Just like with the eye, we will use the lattice deform selected. So select the circle in object mode and press Shift and A and add lattice deform selected. The circle has more geometry than the eye, and we want to animate this, so we need to increase the resolution of the lattice. I'll increase the V and U resolution to 5 and the W resolution to 3. Then click the plus sign to add a basic key shape for the unaltered lattice. And add 1 more key that we will animate. Select the lattice and key 1 and tab into edit mode. Then press O to turn on proportional editing. As you can see, we can deform the circle by selecting vertices and pressing G to move, R to rotate, or S to scale. And you can play around with this to animate your emoji in different ways. Box select the middle row of vertices and make sure they're all selected. Then press S and scale this up for the inhale. I will scale the emoji on all 3 axes. Use the mouse wheel to adjust the circle of influence. I will scale this up a bit more than what I think I'll need because we can always adjust the size when animating the shape keys. Tap back into object mode and decrease the value to 0. Then let's add a shape key for the exhale. With key 2 selected, tap back into edit mode. Box select the same vertices as before and make sure they're all selected. Then press S to scale this down. We now have 2 shape keys that we can animate. But notice how the eyes aren't following along with the lattice. We need to add the lattice to the eyes as well. Select the left eye first. Go to modifiers, add and deform. Select lattice and use the eyedropper tool and select the lattice. And then repeat this for the right eye. Let's move on with the breathing animation. Select the lattice, go to data properties, and then move the playhead to frame 0. We want to create a looping animation, and for this to loop perfectly, frame 0 and the last frame of the animation must be identical. Add keyframes for both key 1 and 2 at frame 0, and make sure the value for both are set to 0. So click on the little dot behind the value. The breathing animation will be a bit slower than the winking animation. So move the playhead to frame 6 and let's adjust the value of key 1. A value of 1 is a bit too much, so I will go with a lower value. The value you decide to use will depend on how much you scale the lattice. Once you're happy with the number, set a keyframe. Also set a keyframe for key 2 and the value needs to be set to 0. Then move the playhead to frame 12 and reduce the value of key 1 to 0. Set a keyframe. Make sure you set a keyframe for key 2 as well, and the value should still be at 0. The emoji should now be back to the neutral position. To make the emoji exhale, we need to animate key 2. So move the playhead to frame 18 and select key 2. Increase the value. I'll go with something like this. Then set a keyframe. Also make sure that the value of key 1 is set to 0 and insert a keyframe for this one too. Then move the playhead to frame 24. Decrease the value of key 2 to 0 and set a keyframe. Also set a keyframe for key 1 at the value of 0. We could stop the animation here and we would have a perfect loop. But let's add another loop of breathing just to practice setting the keyframes. If you want, you can pause the video right here and see if you can remember how to create the breathing animation on your own. Remember to set a keyframe every 6 frames for both keys. Did you manage to do it? I'll quickly show you how I do it. Move the playhead to frame 30, select key 1, increase the value, and set keyframe. Also set a keyframe for key 2 with the value of 0. Move the playhead to frame 36, decrease the value of key 1, set keyframe, and set a keyframe for key 2 at 0. Move the playhead to frame 42 and set a keyframe at 0 for key 1. Select key 2, increase the value, and set a keyframe. Move the playhead to frame 48, which is the last frame, and this frame needs to be the same as frame 0 for the animation to loop. This means that our little emoji needs to be back to neutral position. So decrease the value of key 2 to 0 and set a keyframe. And also set a keyframe at 0 for key 1. And now our animation should be a perfect loop. You can press space to view your animation. If you want to hide the lattice, you can click on it and press H. If you want to adjust the value of any of the keyframes, you can bring back the lattice. Go to the keyframe that you want to adjust and change the value, then set the keyframe again. If you notice that the speed of your animation is slowing down or up, you need to make sure the interpolation mode is set to linear. So box select all the keyframes, right-click and go to interpolation mode and select linear. And that's our little animation done. I challenge you to play around with the lattice deformation on the emoji and create different animations to practice the techniques we just learned. You can also try to animate the default cube. If you want to animate the default cube, just remember to give him a bit more geometry. And if you want to learn how to create an animation-ready version of the Twitch logo, remember to subscribe and stay tuned. And when that tutorial is ready, I will make sure to leave a link in the description below. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!